got a absolutely wonderful topic that we're getting ready to cover, which is how to stop thinking the worst. Well, I mean, how to stop thinking the worst about your partner, about your relationship, about your life.
This actually comes from a question from the group. So that's what we want to delve into. And we thank you for your questions because they really, they get us thinking and they give us topics to talk about. So
Yeah.
Thank you. Keep them coming.
Keep them coming.
Yeah.
What a great topic.
Should I read the question, Otto?
Yeah, let's read the question because that's a really good question, I think.
Okay.
Yep, read the question.
How do we get on the same side and quit thinking the worst or most negative things about the other? I just want to be a team and know that no subject is more important than my spouse and marriage, and it's not worth getting bent out of shape over. Great question.
It really is.
Yeah, so I take it that this person, they, have fights, they have arguments or something, and this person wants to be on the same side, same team as their partner, but they just have that negative thinking, that thinking the worst all the time. And who of us haven't been there? To think, if only he would do this, or if only she would do this,
Right.
everything would just be fine. And we are thinking the worst.
Well, it may not always be the worst, but I can tell you when you're headed down that path, it's when you've got a bad case of the shoulds.
No, yeah, that's a good word to watch out for.
A bad case of the you ought tos.
Yeah.
A bad case of the why don't you.
Yeah. Because who doesn't want to get on the same side as a partner or friends or whatever? Who doesn't want peace? I doubt if there's anybody that really wants to fight. But we find ourselves getting caught in this trap of maybe constant negative thinking that comes up. I know I've done it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you get into these things, it is so seductive. So seductive.
How is it seductive, Otto?
Well, it's seductive because it feels so good to want to be right, to feel like, okay, my way is the best way, my way is the right way, and I really have the answer, and it should be this way.
Well, and it's really superiority. And a lot of times we think we're just helping when we have these ideas that, well, they should really act like this. But it's really superiority, and like you say, it makes you feel better, and it's seductive, at least in that moment, But then all it does is create chaos, really.
So there are going to be people, Susie, watching this, listening to this, who are going to say, but my partner, that person in my life, they really are a fill in the blank right there. And, that person or that person you work with or your boss at work or somebody in your family. I know there are situations and people, of people that I can think of, people that I've worked with in the past, people in my family, I've thought, oh my goodness, this is real. What's the matter with these people?
Yeah.
What's gotten into them?
And, like this person said, it's not worth getting bent out of shape over. Maybe there are topics that do feel like they're, it's worth getting bent out of shape over.
Any time that you are, I'll even use the word committed to getting into a little dance of I'm right, you're wrong, you mentioned earlier a couple of times superiority. anytime you're in that superiority dance, and it doesn't feel like you're trying to be superior at all.
No.
It doesn't feel like that. But
that's the way it comes out.
It comes out that way. It comes out sideways that way for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and we always do everything because we will feel better by doing it. I mean, if you examine anything that we do, we think that we're going to feel better by doing it, whether it's offering somebody unwanted advice or, whatever it is, we will feel better, But the thing of it is, you don't really feel better in a lot of this.
Mm.
When there's upset, when you have a divisive thing going on between you and somebody else, it's like eating chocolate or whatever vice. I'm not saying chocolate's a vice, but whatever. Ooh boy, it's good in the moment, but after a while, it really isn't. So. How do you stop thinking the worst about your partner? How do you stop all this?
I think that one of the keys to stopping is, well, there's a couple of things that I'll mention. One is when you stop, I mean, really stop, and you start to wonder a little bit. And what you wonder about is, I really could be thinking the worst about my partner, my relationship, that other person. And there's so many things that you might be, that might be able to be seen instead.
So maybe if you slow it all down and kind of stop and just become aware of, that's a possibility.
I'm thinking the worst of them. And what if that person just sees it differently than me? And what if that's okay? So that's really, that's just one example of a possibility when I tune into this question, Susie, which is an amazing question. How to stop thinking the worst. There is someone that I used to know who used a phrase occasionally, which was to go for the highest and to go for the best. And when you tune into this idea of, or recognize, I guess you'd be recognizing, I'm thinking the worst here. And knowing that person, that just may be how they're showing up in the moment. And what's really key here is knowing that all that's going on is you're having a thought.
And thoughts change.
Yeah.
Thoughts, we can have a thought that, he is just so terrible. Why is he doing that? Or she, or whatever. And maybe in the next moment, or the next day, or whatever, you have a connecting moment. And you think, I'm really lucky to be with this friend, or have this person as a lover, or a partner, or whatever. So you've got to recognize that this is all a moving target. And you don't have to focus on, this is the worst. I don't have, you don't have to believe those thoughts. You don't have to believe them. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, or I still learn, is that even though a thought comes in my head about somebody or something, maybe it's judgment. Judgment is so easy to latch onto, and go off, and especially if there's somebody somebody else that you can just kind of, say, oh, did you know what she did? But I don't have to give this life. I don't have to give this judgment any energy. And to me, I mean, the question is how to stop thinking the worst. To me, it's just going on and, oh, well, okay, so that thought came up for me. I can go on to something else. And it's not really changing my mind or anything like that, but it's simply not hanging on to it, not reliving it, not going over and over. I mean, we've all had things that have happened to us, and we have relived them, and it becomes a big sore, a really big sore inside us. And we've all had those things that have happened in our lives because we keep reliving them in our minds. We keep thinking about how awful this person was, or whatever this person did to us was so terrible.
Yeah.
We keep that alive. And we're not saying that people don't do bad things, to other people. That's not what we're saying at all. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to relive it all the time. Yes, you can have boundaries with people. You can, if they have treated you badly or whatever. But you don't have to keep that sore alive and keep the worst of what you think they've done alive inside you.
One of the things that, for me, that keeps me from thinking the worst about Susie, or about thinking the worst about other people in my life, and it doesn't mean that I don't have a stray thought that doesn't come in about, I can't believe she did that, or I can't believe that she thinks this way. But it doesn't last very long. And the reason that it doesn't last very long, and to you who's watching or listening to this, you're going to have to find your own way of seeing something new. But the moment that I really saw that Susie doesn't have to be made wrong because she's different than me, that was the moment that everything changed for me. And as I say, you got to find your own way here. But that moment, and that's just one of many things that I saw. Like, I saw it in an instant. I saw it like in a flash. And once that happened, it's like once you can see it, you can never go back.
Yeah, and when you realize, oh, I've made up all these rules of how somebody should be, or how somebody should think, or act, and somebody else has other rules.
But that one thing of really seeing that just because she's different doesn't mean that she's wrong, and doesn't mean that her way is wrong or my way is right. And just to see, that sometimes there's an honoring of her way. Other times, I sit with it. But to live also in this place of, because going back to revisiting the question, Susie, of how to stop thinking the worst. And again, this isn't a prescription. This is just what I've done. This is just what Susie's done. Is just recognizing, oh, this is my beloved. And asking myself the question, how do you treat the person who is your beloved?
Yeah.
And then the question becomes, do you judge them harshly, even in your own mind? Are you critical with them, even in your own mind? Do you think the worst of them, even in your own mind?
And hang on to it.
And hang on to it. Are you supportive of that person? Do you believe in that person? Do you believe that in order to be together and to be happy, everything has to be completely aligned and in sync? And also, that doesn't mean that at our core there aren't some really awesome things that connect us, because there certainly is, or we wouldn't be together.
You know, you bring up a good point about being on the same page and on the same team, because you probably won't see completely eye to eye. You know, we're all different. And if we're really honest with the other person, a lot of times, you know, we really try to understand. I think that's where I've come off, is that when it seems like we're not on the same team, I just really try to just tell me more. You know, try to understand and listen without getting defensive and without arguing. Now, am I always successful at that? Probably not. But it's the direction that I think we both try to go now, is not expecting that we're going to be really always in sync.
Yeah.
Because we're different, you know? And you know what I've discovered? We make it all up anyway.
Yeah.
We do. We make the whole thing up. Everything. You know, what we think, what we believe in, and if I'm doing that, he's doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
And there are going to be clashes in all that. But when you step back and see the humor in it, you know, not always can you see the humor, but you can step back and you say, oh, okay, well, you know, let's just see if there's anything that is a point of agreement, or that we can both of us move toward. You know, what is it we both want to move toward?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the question that I go for, to get on the same team.
Yeah.
And then when you're really focused on what are we moving toward, then, you know, the worst thinking, you know, thinking the worst doesn't really come in to the discussion or to even your thoughts that much.
One other thing I think that before we wind this down that's really huge to really understand is that it's impossible to think the worst of someone while you're in the present moment.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Because if you're thinking the worst of someone, you're almost always projecting into the future what your life, what your relationship, what your partner is going to be like, what it's going to be like to live with them if this is the way it is forever.
Right.
It's never like that, because this present moment is always where the magic is. It's always where the juice is in life. And if you're thinking the worst, very often you're going back to the troubled, awful past, bringing that into the present moment. And not just that, but you're taking that way out into the future a lot of times and thinking, and you're not conscious of this.
Right, right.
This is just the way it goes inside your own mind, and you're thinking, at some level, this is the way it's going to be forever. But it's really not. It's just you believing a thought in this present moment that you've projected way out into the future. And that's a really good way to think about the worst in someone else. But if you want to think the best, reel yourself back in into this moment, and just know that if you stop and you wait, given enough time, whether it's 2 seconds, 20 minutes, or a couple of years, you're going to see something new.
Yeah.
And the whole key to seeing something new is to be open to it, to be open and to be willing and to actually invite something new. Because if you're continuing to see the worst and you're continuing to see that, then I'm willing to bet that that's not something new, but that's probably something old.
Okay, that's a wrap. We are Susie and Otto from susieandotto.com. And we'd love to have your questions. We'd love to have your comments about our video. Put them below. And yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we love having you watch these videos. We appreciate it. We appreciate you for being a part of our community. So blessings and love to you. We'll see you again next time. Bye, everybody.